Welcome to The Work of Warriors, a podcast dedicated to bringing mental wellness to the entertainment industry. I'm your host, Kim Rapach. This podcast is dedicated to the artists we've lost to mental health, addiction, and suicide, and to those who are still suffering in silence. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I can tell you that so many of my clients, when they come to me, they're concerned about where they're at given their age. This is a common theme that I hear throughout a lot of the work that I do. No matter how successful someone is, there seems to be this invisible goalpost that keeps moving on people, and it induces this fear that they haven't gone far enough. And then, it's just this perpetual cycle that people get themselves into. And so that's why I'm so excited for today's guest. Gail Taylor is an author, motivational speaker, and songwriter who embodies the epitome of personal growth and achievement, beginning her own transformative journey in the late 1970s. For 25 years, Gail thrived in the financial sector, orchestrating financial independence for her clients and herself. Embracing a new creative path in music at 65, Gail is an inspirational storyteller who represents the essence of personal growth, development, and potential, showing what is truly possible for every one of us. Her book, Curveballs, Unlocking Your Potential Through Personal Growth and Inspirational Music, blends personal stories, self-development tools, and music, reflecting her belief in the transformative power of music to heal the soul. The immersive book includes QR codes linking to original songs, allowing readers to connect deeply with the lessons and emotions of each chapter. Gail's work emphasizes living with purpose, authenticity, and passion. With an MBA from Queen's University, executive training from Harvard, and certifications from Wharton, Gail's expertise spans both personal growth and financial development. She is a strong advocate for mental health and addiction recovery, inspiring others to face life's challenges with resilience and to unlock their fullest potential. Welcome, Gail Taylor. Hi, Gail. Welcome to the Work of Warriors. How are you?
I'm doing great, Kim, and thanks so much for having me. This is an honor.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you so much. On the Work of Warriors, we focus primarily on people who are taking care of themselves first so that they can pour into others. Whereas sometimes, especially for artists and creatives, there's this misnomer that they have to give away everything they have before they take care of themselves. And as a former therapist and now mental wellness coach, I help people focus on themselves, returning back to who they are, saving their gifts for themselves, finding creative things to do that they don't always have to give away or give to the world. I also focus from a place of wellness as opposed to mental illness. I think mental illness has a lot of stereotypes and a lot of misunderstanding, even miseducation. And so as I help people work through trauma, understanding their personality, learning how to take care of themselves, a lot of those things that would qualify someone as a diagnosis, they go away and we can focus on wellness. I'm certainly not here to say mental illness doesn't exist, because it does. However, you can really minimize or diminish symptoms if you take care of yourself. And this is not a new concept by any means, which is why I love your story, because you've been doing this for a minute. You've been focusing on your own mental health for a minute. Do you want to talk about that and maybe share with our listeners what your journey has been?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you hit it while I was listening to you. I was there. Yes. That mental wellness is what it's all about. I heard this on another podcast, and I use it all the time because it is so me. And that's that I come from a place of healed scars, not open wounds. Right. And it's so it's doable. It is doable for anybody. So my journey actually started quite young. When I was 12 years old, my father died, and I didn't do well. I mean, talk about trauma. I kept him alive for 2 years. I pretended he was a spy for the government and that they had to pretend that he was dead for our safety. for 2 years, and then he was gonna walk in the house someday. So then what happened, we lived in a little town, 3,000 people, and my mom had 6 kids, so I'm one of 6. I'm 12 years old, she's in her mid-30s, and now she's got 6 kids, and so she moved us from the town to a city, and a not so nearby city, and the purpose was so that she could get a job, keep all 6 kids together, and keep us off welfare. So keep us out of the system, keep us off welfare, so she moves us to the city, she gets a job, and it didn't work for me. The city just swallowed me up. It swallowed me up, it chewed me up, it spit me out. By the time I was still 12 years old, I was trying to figure out how to deal with this new strange place I lived in the new school. So I turned to drugs, alcohol, and reckless behavior right away. So, before my 13th birthday. And it was long. Like my mom would go to bed early. She'd come home from work putting one foot in front of the other, right? She'd have dinner with us, and then she'd go to bed and cry herself to sleep because she was mourning her loss of her husband. And so she went to bed early, and as soon as she was asleep, I snuck out. I hitchhiked to the other side of the city, 12-year-old girl hitchhiking across the city, hooked up with some older kids, and we got stoned all night. And then 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd hitchhike back home, and mom didn't even know I was going. And so I
Wow.
carried this on, and this reckless behavior and well, I got caught. I became an addict, right? And so I started with the mind altering substances every day. And I carried that on for 10 years. 10 years before the first time I started to do a shift. And when I started, I was in my mid 20s, and I literally, Kim, I woke up one day and it was like I looked around at the mess I made, not just in my house, in my soul, and I thought,
Yeah.
"There's gotta be more to life than this. There's gotta be able to take control and do something different." And just having that little spark of, "Okay, enough's enough." It worked. It just something clicked in my brain, and the next thing you know, I started reading. I started reading books about personal growth. How do I get to the next level? I started with Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. I'm sure a lot of your listeners have read this book. I'm sure they've
Mm.
all heard of it, and I'm sure a lot of them read it. And so that was the very first book. And because I was a high school dropout, right? I dropped out of school when I was 16. And, I was hitchhiking across the country with my boyfriend. I mean, the stories could go on and on. But when I read that book, one of the things was, pick a goal and focus on it. And I mean, mid-20s, dysfunctional. What do you think I want? Financial independence. I want the luxury car and the boat and the whole thing. Like that was my dream at the time. And I went for it. And then I continued to read and personal growth and peak performance. I studied it for 40 years. And
So had you stopped using at that point?
nope. Nope. I cut back enough to be able to start shifting my life, but no, I didn't stop using. And unfortunately for my son, I had a 3-year-old son at the time. And so now
Mm.
we're getting into the early 80s, right? Late 70s, early 80s. And so I'm in that, it's like the me generation, right? The baby boomers. It's all about work hard, play hard. And that's what I did. I worked really hard. I started to create all this success in business. And then after work, I went and partied. I shifted a little bit more to alcohol at the time, but not completely. So my son didn't get a lot of my time. And when this happened, I thought, I had people that were taking care of him, the babysitters. I made sure he was with people that loved him and wanted to be around him. And I thought that worked, you know, uh, quality over quantity. When I was with him, I was there, but I wasn't yeah, no, that was just poor parenting that I didn't know any better. right? I just at the time, I was not my brain, and unfortunately, I mean, if we're gonna fast forward through life, my son went through the same thing. When he was 12 years
Mm,
old, I moved him across the country, I put him in a new school, I introduced a new man into his life, and guess what? He did the exact same thing as me. He spiraled.
mm,
He ended up being an addict, and that was the first time that so this is another 10 years later. This is the first time that I really stopped using on a daily basis. And it
mm.
was like, how do I help this kid get through this? And
Wow.
he hated me. He absolutely hated me for all the mistakes I made, for all like, he came by it honestly. I screwed up, and he was bitter. So, I had a lot of learning to do, and that's when I started reading about addiction and understanding what was happening to my brain, what was happening to my body, and was able to work through, the lingo, the codependency, the enabling, the boundaries. um, I'm a I have my son's permission to share our story. It is our story, but his part too. He's actually in recovery right now, and he's one of my best friends. Yeah, and he's been in
Oh,
recovery for years. But he got caught up in the opioid world, and I'm very lucky he's in recovery because I don't think I'd have a son right now if he was still
yeah.
there.
That's
With
always my
the
first
fentanyl, with the
response is
deaths, oh my God,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah,
So that's
yeah.
the
I'm
start.
glad he's here and I'm glad he's in recovery and
Yeah.
living his life. Yeah.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
that you're reconnected.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Like I said, he's my best friend. He's an amazing person.
Amazing.
And yeah,
Thank
for
you for
your
sharing
listeners
that.
out there that have loved ones that are in active addiction, that's what I always say. Hey, give yourself permission to be happy. You're on a parallel journey. Figure out what you can do and what you can't do because you can't control them. You don't have control. Like I
Yeah.
had a therapist tell me to tell my son that he was dead to me and that I wouldn't have anything to do with him until he was clean. I know, I see your eyes. Like it was just, and I said, no, that's not my personality. I'm not going to tell this kid that he's dead to me. What I'm gonna tell him is, "I got my boundaries. I'm not taking phone calls from you where if I don't give
Yeah.
you money for drugs, you're gonna yell and call me all sorts of names. I'm not gonna do
Yeah.
that. That's a boundary. But if you wanna go to rehab, if you need help, if you wanna get clean, I'm your advocate. I'll find you a
Yeah.
bed in a minute, like, and I'll be
Yeah.
there. If there's financial need, I'll be there. I'll absolutely be there. I'm just not going to support you in addiction." And
Sure.
learning how
So
to live
beautiful.
a parallel life with him was a game
Mhm.
changer.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. Yeah. I can't believe it. As a former therapist, I cannot believe you had a therapist who told you that. That was the look on my face. Like,
I
what?
know. I know.
Ooh.
And needless to say,
And I'm a mom. I have a son. He's 19, and I just can't imagine ever uttering those words.
and that would have been about my son's age when that happened.
Mhm.
Yeah, he would have been in his late teens, early 20s.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your
And I had
story.
a
Thank you.
really good job at the time. Like, I became a financial advisor. I mean, I ended up going from being a high school dropout to getting an MBA. I got an analyst degree at Wharton. I studied microfinancing at Harvard. I got an MBA at Queen's. Like, I ended up becoming a lifelong learner. And I absolutely loved it. And I was a financial advisor and I was really successful. I was managing $130 million. Loved my job, loved my clients. So when I went to that therapist, I told her, life's good. I have an amazing husband. I mean, he is my soulmate. Everything's awesome, but I have a kid that's struggling with addiction, and in the process of learning how to navigate that and, within my own world and his to be there for him. So that was where I was coming from when she said that to me.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, not might have worked for someone else, but, maybe there are parents out there that need that approach. I don't know, but it wasn't for me.
Well, I think if we look at the humanity within addiction and not just the addiction, and we look at people who suffer with addiction as actual people, again, they're worthy of kindness and love and respect, and a lot of boundaries are needed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But in fairness to
There's a
her, this was
difference.
25 years ago. So addiction, we talk about the stigma now. Whoa, the stigma back then was just like, it was way more.
So where are you at today? You have this bright, like, you're just like a light. Like
Aw.
you emulate joy. And so I would love to know whatever you're willing to share. I think it's fascinating.
Okay, so here's my now. This is this this is fun. Okay, 25 years as a financial advisor. And then when I was 58 years old, I started taking piano lessons just for like a hobby, right? Stop thinking about numbers and money and I started taking piano lessons. And I had never taken a musical instrument lesson in my life. I had no background and I didn't have natural talent. So here I was learning my little scales, everything from scratch. And honest to God, Kim, I fell in love with it. It was just like I was having and music started flooding back into my life as listening to it because I hadn't realized that for the last 25 years in the car I was listening to economic books, right? I had taken music out of my life without even knowing it. So 2 years into this, I thought, okay, I'm going to retire a little bit earlier than I had planned, sell my practice, and study music full time. And so when I was 61, that's what I did. I sold my practice. I started studying music full time. And I'm taking bass guitar lessons, keyboards, songwriting, ear training, the whole gamut. I got private teachers. Berkeley, I'm studying with Berkeley School of Music because they have an online version that you don't have to audition for. Because I couldn't have auditioned, didn't have the talent. But just the amazing programs and the professors I had. Oh my God, it was awesome. So 2 years into studying music, I thought, I'm going to reinvent myself as a musician. And when I shared that story to folks, I kept getting the same reaction. I kept getting, oh my God, Gail, that is so inspiring. I'm going to go do bitty, something they had put on the back burner. And Kim, I heard that over and over again. I heard it from strangers on the airplane. So I thought, whoa, I'm never mind being a musician. I'm going to come out of retirement. I'm going to start my own business, Gail Taylor Music, and I'm going to use my songs and my stories and become a keynote speaker and help folks become their best selves. And so that's what I did. I started my own business January of 2020. We all know the significance of that date. Gail becomes an entertainer and a keynote speaker. That was okay though, because I needed the first couple of years to really focus on the songwriting and the platforms and the speeches. And so I did that. And then I hired an entertainment lawyer to help me get set up. And he said, well, if that's the route you want to take, write a book. And I said, okay, here we go. I wrote a book and I called it Curveballs. And the book is all like these personal stories, challenges, and curveballs that life threw at me. And then it's got the tools that I use. Like I had mentioned earlier, I spent 40 years studying peak performance and personal growth. And I brought myself like in my business, and I mentioned I love it. Like I was one of the top 5% earners in North America. I had really made this overachiever thing happen. So the curveballs, and my secondary title is Unlocking Your Potential Through Personal Growth and Inspirational Music. Because what I did was at the end of every chapter, I put a QR code for a song that I wrote that was inspired by that story. So you put the QR code and then it brings you to YouTube to watch the lyric video and listen to the song. I literally put a soundtrack in my book.
That's amazing.
Isn't that fun? Yeah, yeah.
That
So
is amazing.
that's where my journey has taken me to now.
That is so exciting. That's amazing. So you have this cool book.
Yeah.
You're a keynote speaker. You have a great relationship with your son. And it sounds like you're happily married.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I have a daughter and 5 grandchildren, and yeah, life is good.
So I guess what comes up for me is, I have a lot of clients, I have a lot of conversations with people, and it seems, and I think you can probably speak to this, it seems that no matter how successful someone is, there's this invisible goalpost that keeps moving, and there's this common thread where creatives and high achievers, they don't feel like they're far enough along on their journey with their career, or that they haven't done enough. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because it seems like I hear it at every age, whether they're 20, 30, 40, 50. I'm not far enough along.
Yeah. I think that's true, and I think for an overachiever, someone that's a type A personality like me, of course the goalpost is going to move. I crave productivity, so I strive for what's next. So what I did is shifted my thoughts like many years ago. So a big part of life to me is your internal dialogue, right? Your
Hmm.
internal dialogue is everything. And
Hmm.
so, to speak to what you're saying, it's not the goalpost that matters, it's the journey. It's getting to, because you're gonna move the goalpost. That's just part of who we are. But it's the journey to get to the goalpost. And of course, when if I was managing $50 million, I wanted 75. When I hit 75, I wanted 100. Like there was no that was just the reality. But as long as you're enjoying the journey and making sure that you're that I always say live with purpose and passion, right? And so to me, living with purpose and passion is about doing something that you like every day, making your job, your career, something that means something to you. And so that you do have that bounce in your step. And if like in our culture, a lot of folks settle. Okay, I'm going to take this job that I don't like going to work every day because I'm going to make a lot of money and support my family. Yeah, no. Right? I don't believe that. I don't believe in settling. I think we should look for the job that you spend half your life, half of your waking hours at work. So to me, your work life and your personal life are the same thing. They're your life. And so yeah, so okay to move the goalpost, but make sure that you're enjoying the journey. And I'm even going to take that a step further, because the reaction I get when I say that is people say to me, well, yeah, but there's always a lot of exceptions, like, the single mom with 3 kids that has to put food on the table. It's okay for her to have a horrible dead end job that she hates and a boss that's mean to her because she has no choice. No, I'm not buying it. Imagine if she's in that situation, how she feels when she gets home at the end of the day. She's like my mom. She's putting one foot in front of the other, and barely being able to smile. Barely being. Imagine if that same girl found herself a job, that same lady found herself a job where she was excited to go to work every day. She had a nice boss and she had a nice environment. And then she went home to her 3 lovely kids and played with them. And like, to me, if you have that job, yeah, you can't quit it because you have to pay the rent, but you can spend an hour a day or an hour a week looking for that alternative position, right?
Yeah.
And to me, that's the journey's everything.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you spoke to that, because so many people that I talk to, they've hit a point in their career where they're successful, but they're not happy.
Right.
And you have a little different story where you were successful and you liked it, but you tried something new for the fun and to start transitioning in a season of life, and you fell in love with it and then pivoted.
Yeah. And so I had 2 chapters of my life where I loved them both, right? People say,
Yeah.
lots of times I'm interviewed and people go, "Oh, you finally found your calling later in life." And I said, "No, I had my calling for 25 years. It was
Yeah.
my calling and I loved
Yeah.
I loved
Yeah.
creating financial independence for my clients and helping
Yeah.
them get to that point where they were comfortable that they were going to be able to retire with the same lifestyle that they had working,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I got chapter 2. I got to pivot. And then I'll just share one other story about the finding a job you love, because for
Mm.
everybody it's different. And this is a story I share in my book. My son works in pest control and he loves it. He is so good at it. For him, it's like I go to somebody's house who has bed bugs or cockroaches or some other little vermin running around, and I'm able to bring them to a calm place and explain to them what I'm going to do to get these little critters out of their house so that they can come back home and have the peace of mind. Imagine how stressed out that person is that has this situation. So he's
Mhm.
got that personality where he can, help them. It's okay. Apartment buildings are like this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take care of it. You go back home and you're happy and like that job would be my worst nightmare. I don't want to be anywhere near those little vermin. That would be my
Same, same.
absolute, I would hate that job. But that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. If you have a job that you don't like, somebody else has a job that you don't like, you could almost swap jobs and both be in a job that you love. Like it
Yeah.
is not rocket science to go to try to find something that works with your personality. And that in the book, I do a chapter about it and say, what do you like? Do you like dogs? Get a job out of that. Do you like uh, gaming? Get a job program. Like there's so many opportunities to find things that are about you.
Mhm.
That's my
Alright,
philosophy.
I love that. Along those lines, what would you say to someone who is an artist and has been an artist their whole career, but they're in a world where everything is judged on social media and you have to keep up with your followers and you make a misstep and there's this whole cancel culture. Like, what would you say to someone who's an artist on how to make sure that they're loving their gifts and what they do?
Right. So I think part of that is to find a role within the industry that works for you. Because, yeah, I wrote a song called Staying Young. And what motivated me to write that song is, especially in the music industry, it's like folks hit the age of 30 and they think, okay, I'm over the hill. I got to stop work and go get a job in construction. Or, I mean, construction might be someone else's passion, but it's not theirs, right? And it's to me, it's like, yeah, no, you're not over the hill at 30, at 50, at 60. You can continue. I mean, there's people that get their PhDs in their 80s, like age is a concept. And so, yes, the mainstream industry of music does focus on the next pop star. And that's a very young person because the 14 and 15 and 16-year-olds are who's listening. So, yes, you might have passed that time as an artist in the music industry where and I am focused a little on the music because on in the artists of the art world, a lot of folks retire and become famous artists, right? But in the music industry, you might feel like, okay, I've missed the train. Well, you missed a train, right? Yeah, but
Mhm.
you could catch the next one, and what you create what the next one is. Maybe you go work for a recording studio. Maybe, like you could do some like look at me. I'm a prime example because I started music so late in life, I never developed the talent that I could become a live musician. That's not even it didn't even become an option for me. But I can write a song and I can bring it to life. I can take that song, I can get a demo done. I record in Nashville And the folks, the musicians at the recording studio work for like Tim McGraw and Miranda Lambert, like they're A level. And then I take the recording, I hire a vocalist because I can't sing, the vocalist and the track, and then I use a private distributor. So the private distributor puts it on Spotify, and now, heck, I'm not even in most of my songs. So I made my moniker Guilty as Charged. Right? Like there was a time where a songwriter couldn't bring their music to life. If some recording studio or famous person didn't like the song, it had to stay on the shelf or in the file. Now with technology, man, we could bring our own music to life, and how exciting is that?
Yeah.
So I say to all those artists you're talking about, find your niche and just, yeah, you might have to pivot from being the top 40 pop star, but there is a niche for you. You don't have to leave the industry altogether. Creative and business is like you brought forward at the beginning of this question. What you basically said was, how do they reconcile the business side of it? Because the business side of it is that social media, it is that trying to build their fan base. And if you don't have a business background, I mean, I do, so it's part of who I am. But if you don't have a business background and you're not inclined that way, then you're either going to have to outsource or you're going to have to go to YouTube University and learn a little bit of, how can I do that? How can I do a simple business plan to take me to where I want to go? And once you have it on paper and once you have the plan, goal setting, if you're the audience that's listening to us that's overachiever knows what goal setting is and they know what SMART goals are. And so to be able to do that and have, figure out what you want your journey to be, plan for the future, live in the present. But,
Yeah.
don't you have a map, you have a roadmap. I'm heading over here, right? I'm not going to hit the rocks because I know where I'm going and I'm going to enjoy the journey of getting there.
I love that so much. So, how do you enjoy the journey? What do you do on a regular basis for your mental health?
Eat, sleep, and exercise. The foundation. I call it the foundation, right? Nutrition. Hey, our body is housing our brain. It's housing our mental health. If you're going to abuse your body, then it's a little, yeah, no. You're not going to put cheap gas into a luxury car, right? You might not notice it right away, but the knocking's going to start after a while. The engine's boop, boop. You don't do that to your body. To me, I believe that you should no filler, right? No processed sugar, no. And when I say no, I'm talking about your daily diet. If you eat a bag
Sure.
of chips once in a while, it's not going to derail you, right?
Right.
But for me, nutrition is so important.
Mhm.
And it's not that hard to learn how to eat healthy if you don't already know, right? So that is a big one. Nutrition. The second one is exercise. Again, you got to keep your muscle, you got to keep your blood flowing, you got to keep the oxygen, you want the energy. Exercise. And if you're not exercising at all, I'm not saying you have to go to the gym and figure out how to navigate the equipment. Go for a walk for 20 minutes a day, then make it 30 minutes, then make it a power walk. Like it's not it none of this is rocket science. In fact, the folks that are listening to us right now have already heard what I'm saying, right? They know
Sure.
eating healthy and exercising is key. And then the third thing is sleep, right? If you can get your 8 hours sleep a night, it's very important. And for anyone listening that has insomnia or has struggled with the sleep, again, go to YouTube University, buy a book, don't give up. Keep trying to figure out, how do I shift this? Because a good night's sleep, healthy food, and exercise make the world of difference. Not about how your body's going to, I mean, yeah, it can ward off things like cancer and other health issues, dementia, all kinds of things can be warded off by taking care of the house. But it's the day to day. Like I wake up with a bounce in my step. I get up between 3 and 5 a.m. I know. I know. I see the face. I go to bed
3 and
early.
5.
I go to bed early. I go to bed at 8 o'clock. Like, what am I doing in the evening? I'm watching Law and Order. So I go to bed at 8 and get up at 4. It's 8 hours sleep, right? And so, yeah, I know most people will be more like 10 to 6 or 11 to 7. That's okay. Whatever your 8 hours are. Mine, I just
Sure.
happen to be a real morning person. I don't set an alarm. I've never set an alarm. I go to bed when I'm tired. I get up when I'm finished sleeping. And then the other thing I'll share with you too is for the folks that have demanding jobs, because I did, right? Sometimes the markets would drop and I'd be driving home from work and I just dropped $1 million, and it's so like I'm just not a good day on the markets. But when I walked in the house, I never gave my husband leftovers. I walked in the house
Mm.
and before I walked in, even if I had a rough or long day, it was like, "Honey, I'm home and I had a good day. Pour me a cold one, and oh, by the way." And he would just laugh and smile no matter whether it was 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night that I was coming home because I worked long hours, right?
Mhm.
And so that would just make him smile and it would set the mood for the rest of our evening together. And I think that is so important. Don't give your family leftovers. Don't. It's not fair to
Mm.
them. Make sure that you got enough gas in the tank, and that goes back to the eating and and
Yeah.
sleeping and exercising. Make sure you have enough gas in the tank for them.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about the basics of eating, sleeping, and exercising, and you've already talked about the necessity of your internal dialogue. And I mean, if I had a dollar for every time I said the thoughts you think impact the feelings you feel, be very mindful of the thoughts you have and what you do with them. I just think it's really important. You've named all things that are within our control. And the concept of a warrior and the work of warriors is someone who, when you like, I think most people think like being a warrior is this big aggressive violent stance and I'm gonna fight this war, and it's like, no, it's actually gentle. It's actually self-compassion. It's actually radical self-acceptance. It's self-love. It's speaking kindly to yourself. It's giving yourself nutrients. It's getting outside and going for a walk. And it's making sure you're getting enough sleep. Like when you start there, if that's a struggle for anyone who's listening, the eating, sleeping, exercising, and internal dialogue, if you can't do these things on your own, there probably is something deeper going on. And that's the time where you want to get a therapist or a coach who can teach you the skills, who can provide the space to teach you how to love yourself well. Because if you're able to do it on your own, that eating, sleeping, exercising, and you start to feel better. I teach people the window of tolerance, like before and after an activity, pay attention to how you feel so that you start to learn, oh, ding ding ding, my body likes it when I walk for 20 minutes, right? I'm happier. But if you can't do that on your own, please talk to somebody, because you're not alone. There's so many things that can be done and that you can learn with someone who's been there, with someone who's trained. You don't have to suffer.
Oh, absolutely. And uh I think like wellness coaches or psychologists or psychiatrists or counselors, to me, I've had them all my life. I've gone in and out of therapy all my life, depending on what challenges I was going through, whether it's a life coach to help me hit the next level in business, or whether it's a psychologist because I've got some emotional turmoil. I don't think that's any different than going to a physical doctor. You have a physical doctor, you have a mental doctor. You need them both throughout different times in your life. And then
Yeah.
and then also to this internal dialogue thing I want to speak to. I want to say it's not easy. It's not going to happen overnight. If you're in there self-sabotaging, saying, "Oh yeah, I tried that before, it didn't work," then so what I did, I read this book, and it was in the late 70s, a lady by the name of Gail Olenkova. She was a long distance runner. And she was the first one that really taught me the power of positive thinking. And I stole this from her, and it was whatever your mantra is. So in her case, I started using hers, and it was garbage in, garbage out. So if I'm in my head, right? If you're in your head, you're dead. If I'm in my head and I'm doing the uh oh, I want to apply for this keynote speech, but I don't know if I should. Why would they hire me when there's so many other speakers that are applying, and why would they pay my fee when some even work for free? Garbage in, garbage out. And I yell it, garbage in, garbage out. Oh my God, I'm so glad I reframe. I'm so glad I found this conference and I'm going to apply for the proposal. I'm a perfect fit. They are totally going to get my message and I'm going to help them level up. How sweet is this? I repeat that new mantra. I repeat it, I yell it, especially if I'm in my car and no one's hearing. I mean, I even did a little line of necklaces that I use as a tactile item. So you can rub them. They all have sayings on them. This one says, time is on my side. Right? I've
I
got
love
some that
that.
say, I got this, or be your own wings. And I rub it, right? It's that tactile item to help me shift out of the negative thought into the positive thought. Just like you can't train for a marathon overnight, you gotta, if you're a couch potato, you gotta take a year and a half to get up to the 26 mile. It's the same with internal dialogue. Don't expect to shift overnight. If
Yeah.
you've tried something before and it didn't work, doesn't mean it's not going to work this time. But it's like New Year's resolutions. The reason they don't work is because you're trying to do it overnight. And so, yeah, remember that too with this internal dialogue. You got to develop it. It does take time and work, but it's worth it, man. It's so worth it.
Absolutely. I use an example. If you fell and broke your leg, right? You wouldn't plop on the couch, grab a glass of wine or a bottle of wine and sit and scroll on your phone for 2 hours, looking at other people's lives and other people's stories and silly cat videos, and then wake up the next day and feel your leg would no longer be broken, right?
Yeah.
But somehow that's what we've been conditioned to do when we mentally don't feel well. We detach, we go quiet, we get on the couch, we get on our phones, maybe not making the best nutritional choices, and that feels like a reward somehow. Um, but it's this act of intentionality, which I think does start with how you think about yourself, how you talk to yourself. And I always say mindset, it's not everything, because we do need nutrition and we do need exercise and we need sleep and we need connection and we need to do things that matter and to feel like we matter. But it is huge and it's critical and it's important, and you're not going to get very far without it because you can't condemn yourself into anything positive.
Nope.
It just
And
doesn't
and
work.
it's buildable, right? Like I didn't always have self-confidence and self-love. I mean, there were years through
Yeah.
my addiction that I was suicidal. Like I hit some
Yeah.
lows. I hit some really low lows. So wherever you happen to be in your life, I'm sharing with you from my own experience that, it is possible to get to that next level. And internal dialogue is everything. I really, really believe that your internal dialogue can just send you skyrocketing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So many people that have been part of the work of warriors have wrestled with that.
Right.
And for I think it takes us who, like you said, it's not fun, it's we build it, it takes time, but it's so worth it.
Yeah.
We've been in the dark, I've been in the dark, I've been in those dark places, and I can sit here and tell you I love my life. It gets better, but you have to fight for yourself, and the fight is actually pretty gentle.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, but like you said, sometimes you have to hire that wellness coach or that psychologist, or sometimes you even need medication to get through it, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
It's gonna be different for everybody, and so, I think someone that's going through a really rough time looks at my almost finds my energy toxic because I'm there, "Do," "think positive." But, we're all at a different place, and I respect that. And there is that next step for everyone. There is that next step.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't experience you to have that. I know what you're talking about, like toxic positivity,
Yeah.
but I hear your compassion and I hear your joy, and
Right.
it feels very authentic to me. And I know that you've built it. It's not been what's the word I'm looking? It's not been manufactured,
No.
right? It's not manufactured positivity. It is a lived experience.
Yes. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
life. There's
that's
no
what I feel.
question. Yeah. I
Yeah.
always say I wake up every morning with a bounce in my step and a twinkle in my eye. It's just who I am.
I love it. I love it so much. I guess I would just ask you, where can people find you, Gail? And your book. Where's your book? Where are you?
Easiest place to find me is my website, which is gailtaylormusic.com. And
Okay.
Gail is spelled Gail. So, gailtaylormusic.com. And then you'll have the links to everything, my Facebook, my Instagram, my Spotify, to YouTube, everything. My book is wherever you buy books. It's on
Okay.
Amazon, it's at Barnes& and Noble, yeah, wherever you normally would buy a book, but Amazon seems to be the biggest provider right now, and
Gotcha.
if you are Amazon Prime, you order it and you get it 3 days later.
Yeah, or sooner. Yeah, who knows?
So,
Well, that is going to be my next purchase.
yay!
The winter months are coming in, and I love that I now like will have met you and gotten to spend an hour with you and to, just receive your energy, and which again just feels like just authentic joy to me. So I'm excited. I love the fact that you managed to put a soundtrack to your book and have the QR codes. I love that kind of stuff, because you're not just teaching; you're really creating a space of connection and immersive experience, which I think we all benefit from. Whether we struggle with our mental health or not, that's it just taking you wherever you're at to a higher level. So thank you for creating such a beautiful gift.
And music is healing. Like, I mean,
Oh God.
there's a quote in the book about a study Harvard University did on how music affects your brain and how
Yeah.
it gives you better focus and how it can calm you down and how it has all these powers.
Yeah.
It just like, to me, it's just so, it for anyone listening, if you're going to buy my book, don't skip the music.
Yeah.
Make sure you
Exactly.
do the song at the end. They're like 3.5 minutes long, and
I love it.
it's powerful. It
I love
helped
it.
my
Yeah.
the message and the tools that I'm giving you, right, that worked for me to have a better life. Once you listen to the song and then you go to the next chapter, you've opened up all these, you've created the dopamine. That's what it does. It gives you the dopamine. And
Yeah.
so now you can.
Which we're all chasing anyway,
Yep.
right? Would you rather it be coming from your phone and Instagram, or would you rather it come from something that was created that can really shift your wellness?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that so much. You were talking about this study of what music does for you. And my husband has ADD, and he will turn on classical music when he really needs to focus.
Right.
And so when we hear classical music coming, like when it gets turned on in the office, just the other day, my son said he's locking in. We know that's like,
Well, and I don't think there's too many overachievers that don't have ADD. Right? We're
yeah,
always looking at the
right.
next shiny thing.
Yeah,
Right? I mean, it's
yeah,
just like when people say that to me, and almost like it's a negative, I think, yeah, it's a part of your personality. It's just who you are. Who
yeah,
doesn't have it? It's just like we just, it's like you said, hey, I need to shift this right now. I'm going to listen to classical music, or I'm going for a walk, or I'm going
yep,
to use it to create a new song.
yeah. I think So, I mean, I haven't met anyone who has ADD who isn't brilliant in one way or another. And I think when we learn to let go of stereotypes
Exactly.
and, diagnoses and embrace who we are
Yeah.
and embrace your uniqueness, how your brain works,
Yeah.
we don't want us all to have the same brain. We don't want to all feel the same way and think the same way because it would be really freaking boring.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you don't have to focus on your weaknesses. You can focus on your strengths, right?
Yeah,
Delegate your weaknesses.
that's right.
Take your
That's right.
strengths and
Amen.
they're the things that make you happy. Build on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Gail, I've so loved our conversation. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to reading and listening to your book, and I will circle back with you after I've read it. I'm very excited. I'm just really grateful that you're here and that you're a warrior and that you have such a gift to offer to everybody. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kim, for having me. And what I'll share with you about the book is too, when people are going, because you asked where they could get it.
Yeah.
Curveballs is all one word,
Okay.
right? So you really, and I think there's lots of other books named Curveballs. So you have to type it in
Okay.
as all one word, and Gail Taylor with
Yeah. Type
Amazon.
it with your name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you read my book and you like it, give me a review.
Yeah. So
Apparently,
appreciated.
this is the algorithm. Apparently, Amazon, you have to have 50 reviews before,
Mhm.
when you're looking for a book and they say other books that you might like. I don't think I
Yeah.
get to be on that list
Interesting.
until I hit 50 reviews.
Okay.
And so
So that's the
I might be
challenge.
there by the time this airs. I don't know.
All right. Well,
Fingers
we're
crossed.
gonna assume, yep, assume it will happen, but would love to help you out with that journey.
Thanks, Kim.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Gail.